good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another Godot video tutorial. This will be for our Pixel platformer series, and this is part 15. This series was made possible by the people who support my channel either through my 1-Bit Godot course, which there'll be a link in the description, or by joining my channel through the membership program. And there's a join button down in the bottom right for that. In this video, we're going to cover the exit and door level transitions. This part is the last part on my to-do list for this series. After this, I'm planning on being mostly done and not wanting to cover more. I want to explore some different genres other than platformers. And so we're going to move on after this video. However, I will say that this video or this part might be 2 videos. So it might take 2 videos to get this exactly how I want it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our project here, and I have switched over to Godot 3.5. And I want to address a comment from the previous video. So we were seeing some weird flickering with this enemy, and we'd gone into our enemy as a solution, a workaround. We'd gone into our enemy, we'd come into the move along path bounce, and then we'd set the maximum value here to 0.99 instead of 1. And then in the last video, I said, no, you can set it back to 1, you can come to path follow, and you can just turn off loop instead, and that solves the problem. And it does, at least it appears to solve the problem from my experience. But then one of the commenters was like, you know, you can just go into the animation and then right here where you have the loop wrap mode on the move along path bounce, you can set it to clamp the loop interpolation. And that made so much sense to me. I was like, yeah, you're right. On the loop one, we want the interpolation set to loop, and on the bounce one we want it set to clamp, and then you can just turn loop back on here. However, in practice I was still seeing some flickering, and I don't know if I was doing something wrong. I just wanted to bring that up to say that, like, this makes so much sense to me in theory, but in practice it didn't seem to work for me, and I'm not sure why. So keep that in mind. I'm just going to leave mine how we had it set up in the last video, because that appears to be working for me still. So the first step in this process, we want to be able to have multiple levels in our platformer. And right now we just have this one giant world scene. So the first step is actually going to be changing this to just be our level 1. And this is going to be some renaming for our project. So we're going to come up here, and where it says world, I'm just going to call it level 1. And then that changes the name of the root node here, but you can see our scene is still named world. If we come down into our file system here, we can find the world scene, and we can right click and we can do rename, and we can type level 1 and rename it to level 1. Then we can come into our world.gd script here. We can right click on this and just call this one level. And I'm not going to name it level 1, it'll just be level. Now our output is saying another resource is loaded from path level.gd. It's kind of freaking out at us, but that's a Godot error. It's not actually an error in our code, and we should be fine. It just came from renaming it. If we run the game again, you can see that it still seems to be running just fine. Everything seems to be working. Let's try dying and make sure that our checkpoint still works. So that error was just generated from Godot. So now we've got this world set up, or this level set up. We switched from our level to our world. And from this point, we can create a base kind of level scene that every other level will inherit from. And because Godot has what's called scene inheritance, so you can have one scene inherit from another scene. And it can be useful in some cases. I think this is a case where we can use it. So we named this level 1. And in fact, now that I did that, I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. So we're going to rename this world again. And we're going to come to our scene down here. Where's our scene? Level 1. We're going to rename this world again. Now leave your script named level, because we actually did want to do that. Okay. Now we're going to create a new scene, and we're going to create a 2D scene, and we're going to call this level. And this will be the scene that all of our levels inherit from. Now we want to copy some stuff. Well, what does level need? We're probably always going to want to have a player. So let's instance a player. And we're probably always going to want to have a camera, right? So we'll want to instance a camera. Oh, we want to go to our... Oh, is our camera just... Yeah, we didn't make a camera scene. It's just a camera 2D. So go to nodes, type in camera, instance a camera, and make sure you set this to current, because if you forget, then it won't work. So make sure you check that and set it to current. Okay, so we have our level scene. We're going to want to attach our level.gd to it. There we go. Perfect. We can save again. So this is the route that we can have whenever we create a new level. We can use this as the base, and that way we don't have to instance a player and create a camera every single time we create a new level. You could do that. That's an option, but now we can just inherit from here and not have to do that every time. So what are we going to do? We're going to come down and find level.tscn. We're going to right click on it, and we're going to do new inherited scene. And this creates a new scene that inherits from our level scene. And you can see it has a player and it has a camera 2D. And we can name this level 1. And then we can save it. And we can create a folder, a new folder. I'm going to right click, do new folder, and say levels. And we'll save level 1 in here. Now we have this level 1. If we click on 2D, we can see it. There's nothing inside of this level. We can click this little button up here in the top right to run this scene. Make sure that it works. It does work. Okay. We don't have anything in the level. We actually want to copy everything from this level, from our world level. So, well, not everything, because we already have our camera and our player. So we're going to click tile map, spikes, walking enemy, all of the ladders, skip the camera. Select our, ooh, you know what we forgot though, is timer. Our level script has a timer that it accesses too. So we forgot that, but that's okay because we inherited the level. So we come to our level scene and we add a new node and add a timer. There we go. Let me save. And now if we come to level 1, you'll see that it now has a timer because it's inheriting everything, all of the nodes from level. Okay, so let's copy this again. Come through all of these. I'm holding control to allow me to copy these. Skip camera, skip timer, but get everything else. So we're getting everything but player, camera, and timer. And then we're going to right click and do copy. Come to level. Click on level, right click and do paste. And now if we click on 2D, you can see it's copied everything over into this level. I want to move our player so that our player is back over here and save. So now our world scene and our level are exactly the same. We copied everything over. And we can actually close out of our world. And we'll run the level scene using this little play the scene button to make sure that this is working. And it appears to be working, but our player runs behind stuff, which is kind of cool with the flag there, but it looks really weird with our ladder. And so we actually want to set our player's depth by default to be in front of stuff. So we're going to click on our player scene. Right here, just click this little scene icon. Make sure you do that because we want to set the depth on the player scene and not the instance of the player. And then we're going to come down here and find Z index, and we'll set our Z index to 10. That should be good for our player. That will push the draw order of our player to the front so that it's drawn before everything else in our level. And if we click level 1 and run the scene again, we're going to see that now our player comes in front of our ladder and in front of our flag. And everything seems to be working just great. Okay, so now that we've seen that everything's working, we can close out of our level scene. We'll keep level 1 open. And we're going to find our world scene, and we're going to right click on it, and we're going to delete it. Because we don't need it anymore. We have a level 1 that replaces it. Now if we try and run the game, it's going to say there's no scene because there's no main scene in project settings because we deleted the one that we were using before. So we're just going to do select current, which will select our level 1. And now every time we run our game, it will run level 1. Okay, so we've got a system now set up for creating new levels. So let's do that. Let's create a new level. And to do that, we're going to come down here. And I actually want to move our level and level.gd script into our levels folder here. So I'm going to select them both and drag it up into levels. Now everything should, in theory, still work exactly the same after doing that. Okay, so we just organized a little bit. Now we can come into here and we'll click on level. We'll right click, we'll do new inherited scene. We'll name this level 2 and we'll save it inside of our levels folder. There we go. Now we have a level 2. We're going to instance our tile map. Now, we could actually have tile map be part of the level as well, but maybe you don't want every level to have a tile map. It's kind of up to you. So we're going to create a little level here. It's not going to be very big. We'll grab our player. Oops. Save, click on the player, and move the player down here. And now we can click run to run this scene, and now we have a new level that our player can move around in. Let's add an enemy to this level. So we're going to add a walking enemy, and we'll stick it right here. And maybe we'll add a checkpoint. I'm just clicking the little instance button up here and then searching. Set a checkpoint here, I guess. That looks good. Can run, oops, I ran the game. We want to run the level. Got our walking enemy. Can get our checkpoint. And the functionality should all work exactly the same as it did before, only in this new level. So now we have an easy system for creating multiple levels, but we need some way to move between these different levels, right? We're going to start off with just a simple door. And this door will allow we'll be able to set where we want that door to take us to the next level. So we'll create a new scene. And we'll set this up as let's set this up as an area 2D. And we'll call this door. And we'll attach a sprite to it. And for this sprite, we're going to need to pull in our characters. Let's see, tiles packed. We'll drag this in. And this gives us everything we want, but we only want this little portion here. So we're going to set our region again. And we're going to come into texture region and zoom in on this. We'll set our snap to pixel, and we should be able to just grab the door here. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to minimize the texture region, click on the sprite. I'm going to use the arrow keys to move it up to where the door is perfectly level with the origin like this. Now we need a collision shape for our area 2D, and I'm just going to do a collision rectangle shape, and we're going to let's turn on pixel snap. So we have to turn off normal snapping. Pixel snap is already on. We'll drag this to line up. Actually, I'm going to go just a little bit. I'm going to ignore the outline and do that for door. So we'll save this scene. We don't want to save it inside of levels though, so I'm going to back out here and save it out here. Then we're going to attach a script to it. Door.gd. And the first thing we want to do here is we want to create an export variable. And we're going to, this will allow us to tell the door what level to take us to. That way we can just instance a door in the room and then select the level that we want that door to take us to. So we're going to do a file, export variable of type file, and we want to do a file type, and we can specify a type using a string, and we'll do a star here, which means anything, .tscn. So that allows us to tell export hint isn't a resource type. Okay, so it's not actually file. For some reason I'm forgetting what it is. Oh, it's string. It's a string because it's a path to a file. String file. How do we do this again? Oh, I didn't get it right. There we go. Okay, so we're exporting a string, but this string will be a very specific type, which is a path to a file. And we can tell it what type of file that we should accept. And we only want to accept .tscn. So we'll do target level path. That'll be the name of our variable. We'll just set it equal to an empty string for now. Okay, now our file can detect when it's overlapped with the player, or our door, I mean, not our file. And you can see here's our target level path right here. What we want to do is we want to click on door, click on node, and then we want to do a body entered, connect, and then we'll say if body is, if not body is player, return. So this is our exit case. If the body is not a type player, if it's not a player, then we don't care about it. And we can make sure that our door only targets, if we go to collision layers, we can make sure that it's not on any layer and that it only targets the characters layer. It doesn't need to target the world. Okay, so if not body is player return, so it'll just exit out of the function. But if it doesn't exit out, then we want it to run some code. Get tree dot change scene to, oh no, change scene actually. And then it wants us to pass in a file path. Well, guess what? We have a target level path here. So target level path. We can save. Now we can come to level 1 and click on 2D. And we're going to add a little bit more here. A little bit more on our tile map. So click tile map and do that. We're going to find our door right here. Drag it over. And oops, it's a child of tile map. You've got to watch that. That can happen. So I'm going to click on the door, drag it to be a child of level. We don't want it to be a child of the tile map. And then we'll just set our door here. Now we need to tell this door where to go. If we don't, this is what's going to happen. We'll come over, we'll run onto our door, and boom, we get an error message. Load resource file not found. That's because our target level path is empty. So we can add another exit clause here as well. So we can say if target level path dot empty return. Now we have another exit clause where it says, well, if there's no path, then we want to return as well. And that will fix that error, but we still need to assign a path. So let's click on door and let's go to target level path. We'll open this file, then we'll come to levels, and then we'll select level 2. So now this door, make sure you're not in your door scene. Make sure you selected the instance of a door that is in our level 1. Because we want, if we set it in the scene, then every single door would send to level 2. But we want to only do it on the instance of a door in level 1. And now, when we touch the door, it takes us to level 2, and voila, we can now move between levels. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Ben, why not just export inside of our door? Why not just export a packed scene? And then you can just drag the level 2 scene into the export variable and use change scene 2, like this. Get tree dot change scene 2, because this takes a packed scene. And you could do that, but there's a drawback to it, which is you can end up with looping scenes where level 1 takes you to level 2 and level 2 takes you back to level 1. And currently Godot can't handle that. It freaks out because it's trying to load 2 scenes that load each other. And so it kind of creates this weird infinite loop. However, if we do a path like this, we're fine to actually do that. If we want, we can come into level 2, we can instance a door, we can drag it down right here, we can come to that door instance, click on the target level path, go to levels and select level 1, and this will actually work. We can have level 2 bring us back to level 1. And that's because we used a path instead of a packed scene. And there we go. We've created a loop in our levels. Now, I don't actually want to do that. So I'm going to come back to level 2, select the door, and reset for now. Because I want level 2 to take us to level 3 once we have a level 3. And you can see that if we don't have a level for it to take us to, it just doesn't take us anywhere for now. Okay, so that's going to be mostly it for this first part of getting our door transitions working. I want to add some polish to it in the next video. But before we move on, I want to do a little bit of organizing. Somebody mentioned this on the GitHub repository. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this enemies. And we can come down and find our, let's see, walking enemy and walking enemy.gd. I'm holding control to get these. Stomp enemy.gd. Spikes. And moving spike enemy.gd. And I think that's all our enemies. And then we can, now that we've got all these selected, we can grab them and drag them into our enemies folder. Now Godot should automatically handle all of the new paths. And we'll run the game just to make sure that it did and that we don't get any errors. Everything should be running the same as it did before. But now all of our enemies are organized into this nice enemies folder. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to create a new folder, right click, new folder, player. I'm going to do the same thing but with everything related to the player. So we'll come down to faster player movement, player.tscn, player blue skin, player green skin, player movement data. Where's default player movement? I'm going to drag all of these into player. Now we broke some paths, or at least Godot is freaking out. You can see we've got some errors here. We'll just clear those and run the game and see what happens. Okay, so this is where we broke a path. So you can see right here, we're preloading default player movement data. However, this path is no longer correct because we moved default player movement data. But we can just simply update this. We can say player and then put another slash there. And now it should work properly. Let's try running the game again. Okay. Our player scene right here inside of our level is also incorrect, but we can do player and then a forward slash. And now that should be correct. So we only have a couple paths to update. And now everything seems to be working again as expected. There we go. Perfect. Now we could get we can get even more stuff here. We can create some more folders, and I'm thinking here we could put ladder, tile map, and stuff. Our hitbox could be its own thing, and our door could be in its own thing. Let's create a world folder. And this world folder can contain block, checkpoints, doors, and ladders, and the tile map. Let's drag all of those into it. Okay, Godot freaked out a little bit again. Let's run the game and see if we lost any functionality. Looks like it's all still working properly. Okay, so let's save. And our file system is looking a lot cleaner now. We'll do one more. New folder. Hitboxes. It looks weird to have hitbox out here. I'm going to move it into its own folder. Godot, for some reason, felt like that one was fine. But yeah, everything seems to be working. I usually like to leave events out here anyways because it's a singleton, and these two sprites, we could put them into a new folder, textures. We could put our characters packed and tiles packed into textures. Just to finish. Uh-oh. Okay, it didn't want to do that. Interesting. I don't know why it doesn't want to move those. But it doesn't want to, so I'm not going to. I'm going to right click and delete the textures folder. Maybe it'll work for you. I was worried Godot was going to crash on me. I've had Godot crash on me before. It's pretty rare, but it has happened. And this is why you should always use version control. You should never trust your engine completely. You should always use version control. Okay, but we've done a little bit of organizing. That's going to be it for this video. In the next video, we're going to finish up our exit door and level transitions to kind of add some polish, make it so that the door makes more sense, where you like walk under it and press up or something in order to go through it to the next level, have maybe like a fancy level transition. That's kind of what I'm thinking, and that will be the last video for this series. Hopefully you enjoyed this one and learned something from it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.